Yo, it's the 13th letter to the cipher, welcoming you once again, Black History Month, here on the MOSHOW. Yes. And for all of those who have continued to strive with me during this month, uplifting yourself, uplifting those around you, um, whatever means it may be. I want to thank you and I encourage you to continue to strive with me as I strive with you through this month of encouragement and upliftment, Black History Month. How you all doing out there today? That's good. I myself, well, I'm doing pretty good. I must say, I'm doing some reading, as always, doing some more research. And yesterday, I had forgot something I left out about Frederick Douglass, and that was he became friends with President Lincoln, and he actually helped to get him reelected. In regards to promoting his campaign, something to that effect. Yeah. What else is hot here? Oh, I was talking to. I was answering a question, um, rather, um, in regards to Islam, and I replied back to one of my colleagues um, that still practice Islam, and yes, I used to at one point, but one of my master teachers said history is the best qualified for all research, and obviously, some people did not do their research. So I don't prescribe to any of those slave teachings. And believe it or not, if you didn't hear in prior videos, well, Islam was the first religion to enslave Black people in the 8th century, and it was 765 AD. Yeah, the Arabs came in after Mansa Musa went over there, parading all of the fine golds and throwing money here and throwing money there, and wanted to have some international foreign exchange. And the Arabs like, hey, that's what they working with. They just come from wherever they come from, and we over here starving. Yeah, we got some for them. So it was like it was a stick up. It was a stick up, and he had always talked about going back to Akubalan and uh, maybe opening up a business or something. But I mean, would it be like really worth it seeing that the Chinese uh, really got a big foot in Al Kubalan right now? I mean, recently they had just made a constitution for South Africa. And in this constitution, they had included provisions for the Chinese to have affirmative action, which gives them precedence in regards to job opportunity, what have you, in Al Kubalan versus the actual natives that live there. What type of shit is that? But this type of shit that goes on. This is the type of shit that goes on, and you have uh, some people who want to go back to Al Kubalan. I mean, we come from many parts. For those of us who know where we come from many parts. We come from Angola, we come from Nigeria, we come from the Congo, we come from Ghana, we come from Mali, uh, and a couple of more other places. But there's ways for you to know how to find out where you come from besides that DNA type thing. Do some research. Do some research. You're going to bring me here. As they say, they want to make America great again. You bring me here, and then you do what? You pay. I have to pay you to tell you where you bought me from. It's not adding up to me. But anyway, right? Frederick Douglass was yesterday. Shouts out to all of the fans that's out there once again. And if there's anything that you've liked in my prior videos or anything that I've said in my prior videos, please, by all means, please press the subscribe button. We appreciate that. Next on the list for today, shouts out to Ken Dozier, by the way. Ken Dozier, what's up? It was nice hearing from you. Haven't heard from the brother in a while. Real good brother. Peace and love to the brother and your family, man. Next up on the list, for some more Black history, next up on the list is Denmark Vesey. When you were in school, how many people learned about Denmark Vesey? Some may have, but I know a lot of people did not. In fact, Denmark Vesey was not one of their favorites at all. But anyway, I'll let you decide. I'll let you decide. And also, what else? We'll start with Denmark Vesey once again. He was born in 1767 in St. Thomas, which is now in the Virgin Islands. But prior to that, it was being colonized by the Dutch at that time. And during that time, he, all the way up to the age of 8, he was servicing for some Bermudan master. But when he turned 8, the Bermudan master sold him to a guy named Joseph Vesey. And he too was a slave trader. Now, prior to that, he either had no name, he don't really have a true birthday, but his birth year is known, which is 1767. And like I say, by the age of 8, he was sold to this slave trader by the name of Joseph Vesey. Now, Joseph Vesey came across another Bermudan slave trader that was taking people over to Santo Domingo. And yeah, and Joseph Vesey had actually sold him to the other Bermudan slave trader. But the kid got wise. He already had been through 2 people already. So now he's going through a third. But he also knows what's going on in Santo Domingo, also known now as Haiti. So what he did when he was sold to the Bermudan slave trader, he began to fake epileptic seizures. And he began to have epileptic seizures. And that Bermudan slave trader took him back to Joseph Vesey and asked him to take him back, get my money back, whatever the, words of exchange were. And Denmark ended up back with Joseph Vesey. Okay. So they're still at the age of 8. Okay. And Denmark, like I said, he got that Denmark name from the Dutch when they were being colonized by the Dutch in St. Thomas. So now he's back with this guy, slave trader by the name of Joseph Vesey, and he's now assisting him with interpretation of languages with other slave traders, making deals with slaves, slave ports, etc. at 8 years old. By the time he was 14, he was actually speaking 4 languages fluent, and that would be French, English, Spanish, and his own native tongue, which was Akan. And Akan is from the Mandi tribe. Okay. And the Mandi tribe originally settled in Ghana along the southern part of Western Alkebulan, down by the Ivory Coast. We'll get off into Mali and all of that stuff later on down the line. But yes, he spoke 4 different languages without having any type of formal education at 14. Interesting, right? So, I mean, how many languages did you know how to speak at 14? I mean, I barely had this English language down, okay? Spoke a little Spanish, you know. So yeah, so he continued to do this. He continued to do this, and by the time 1783 occurred, around the end of the American Revolution, Joseph Vesey, his slave owner, decided that he wanted to retire, and he ended up retiring in Charleston, South Carolina. And by this time, when he got to America, Denmark Vesey was actually not only speaking 4 different languages, he was actually reading and writing. No formal school, no formal schooling or education, self-taught. And not only that, during this time, he also picked up skills and trades like being a carpenter. Now, I know that I keep saying trade, and I know that carpenter keeps coming up, but I am by no means saying that that's all that we should do. No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. Whatever uh, business offices that are needed, that everybody else need in the global economy, that is exactly what we would need. So those positions fill. So I'm not saying that we should just be carpenters and be traders, but if you're not going to be, once again, I'll put it to you this way: if you have a trade, you will never be broke. You'll never be broke. If you have a degree, you'll possibly be in unemployment line. I'm just saying. Okay, but getting back to Denmark Vesey. So he works for this guy all of this time, and he learns skills. He developed languages. He learns how to read and write. Sounds like pretty good, right? But still not good. There's nothing good about being a slave. Let's not get that twisted. But ironically, in 1799, so how many years is that? Exactly. Okay. He ends up being in the city lottery, and he ends up winning $1,500. Now, $1,500 back then in 1799 would be equivalent to $29,000. You know, so he had a pretty nice chunk of change, and with that, he spent 600 of those dollars and bought his freedom from Joseph Vesey. Now, during this time, he had a lady that he was seeing and everything, and had some children. But at the same time, once he got his freedom, he opened him up business because he was pretty good at a trade. It just happened to be carpentry. I'm just saying. It don't matter whatever your trade is or that you want to pursue. I'm just saying I encourage uh, black men, black women to get one. I mean, we all have to have some type of place to stay, don't we? We have to know how to make furnaces. We have to know how to do boilers. We have to know how to construct businesses, architecture. I'm just saying. But anyway, furniture, tables, lamps, whatever, what have you. Um, so yeah, so that's what he did. But in addition, um, he tried to buy his lady, his wife, her freedom, but her master said no, and also said no to selling, getting his freedom for his children. So he could not do that, and it was besides against the slave codes laws. So that means that if your mother is enslaved and she has children, the children are also enslaved. So it was just an ongoing mechanism, systematic. Okay, so moving fast forward from 1799 to 1818, and during this time, like I said, he developed a very good business of carpentry and was doing pretty well. And he also joined this AME church. He joined this AME church, and he was one of the founders, and actually did pretty good. Had the second AME church, the biggest one, had 1,848 members. The second biggest one, but the first one was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And he liked to help his people and everything. And they actually shut his church down one time for actually holding service after sunset. And once we opened, he actually began to teach slaves how to read, write, and the word got out, and they closed it down. Somebody snitched. Somebody snitched. Willie Lynch syndrome, snitch. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar, right? I'm just saying. Black History Month. Same thing happened with Frederick Douglass. Same thing happened with Nat Turner. Same thing happened with this man. Somebody snitched. And he continued to teach them in his own home and everything. Okay? And finally, in 1821, he decided he's had enough and wanted to help free Black men and Black women who was there in Charleston, South Carolina. And he started to devising a plan. And according to the story, had thousands of followers. And he was also worried about someone actually going back and telling and snitching on his ass. So he actually changed the date. And the date that he was actually going to have it was Bastille Day. And if you not familiar with Bastille Day? That's the day of the French Revolution when the Haitians told the French it's a wrap. And that took place, 1789 to 1799? Yeah, something like that. So moving right along, so he had these other two slaves that he was dealing with, which was George Wilson and Joe LaRoche. Both of them were mulattoes. And they were discussing the plans and devising it. But these same two men were not fully in with the plan. And neither were a lot of those other slaves, but word got out. And the more word got out, you know how things go like that. There's always somebody gonna, sadly, Willie Lynch syndrome, Sambo ass. So anyway, so Bastille Day is, by the way, July 14th. So he had an argument with George Wilson in regards to the date. So he wanted to switch it up to sometime in June versus July. And they scuffled, fought mentally. You know, it wasn't no man-to-man fight. It was a mental thing. The brothers had disagreement, but the brothers sold him out. Sold him out. He went back and told the slave master. The slave master told the mayor, which his name was James Hamilton. Redneck, yeah. So anyway, they come and arrest him, and 5 more other people, leaders of the church. He didn't get a shot off. He did not get a shot off. There was, according to the story, there was like 14,127 blacks and 10,668 whites. It would have been a landslide, especially if they had an opportunity to get to the arsenal. And then they would took a hold of the port and sailed their way back to Haiti. They wanted to be free. They wanted to be free. They wanted to be free. But seeing that we're not trying to move somewhere or go anywhere, and we must recall that Elijah Muhammad had at one point asked for a state or territory. The government is not going to give it to us. They never was. They never are going to do that. It would be a civil war. They would have to uproot white people from wherever they stand at right now and misplace them in a whole nother place. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But what should be happening is that we should be continuously cultivating our mind, working on that which we are going to build. Black people have owned half of 1% of everything. I'm just saying. Black people own half of 1% of everything. But we have to change that because we're being systematically erased and kicked out, which we say that we supposedly had been known this. But anyway, getting back to the story, they actually executed the brother. They executed him in 1822. Excuse me, 1822, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. They executed the man in 1822. He was 55 years old. Never got a shot off. No white people got hurt. No slave masters got murdered or anything like that. And this is 1822. Never got a shot off. Because somebody told. Some nigger, Nigger, did not want to be free. Sadly. So you have to avoid those who are not on that frequency. And if you find those who are on a bullshit frequency, well, you need to get the fuck away from them or excuse them from your presence, your life, even if it's, you know, a friendship or whatever. I'm just saying, whatever it may be. This is Black History Month, and this is a month that we should be uplifting ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually. We really should. We really, really, really should. And if you're not doing that, shame on you. By the way, it's Friday, right? Friday is Frigga. Frigga. Anybody know what Frigga is? Anybody remember who Frigga is? Frigga is actually the Norse goddess who makes the clouds. She's a shapeshifter. She knows the fate of man. And most importantly, she is the wife of Odin. That's Thor's dad. So yes, that's Thor's mom. Okay. And they got two brothers as well. Yeah, so that's Friday. That's Friday, you all. And stop, think, listen. Listen to this. I've been talking about these men of great honor and character, and they just happen to be slaves. Okay, but I have to ask you, what kind of slave would you have been back then? Would you be the slave that you are now? Would you be different? Ask yourself that. You know, I began to really look at how these men had less of what we have, did more. Maybe because they weren't on crack, they weren't on heroin, they weren't on mollies, they weren't on K-12, they weren't on ecstasy, they weren't on Oxycontin, none methadone, none of that. Didn't even have money anyway. And the money that they did earn, they had to give it right to their slave master. I'm just saying. But all of them have something in common, and that is that they wanted to be free. That they wanted to be free. Just keep that in mind. Be free mentally. Mentally, whereas you come outside, as I stated, yesterday, you come outside of that plantation way of thinking so that you can receive something of essence. And once you receive that essence, meaning yourself, because you get on that frequency, then you'll understand. Then you'll understand. Then you'll understand. Then you'll understand. Somebody always playing the sambo. Somebody always playing the fucking sambo. And you know what? When you see or hear people talking about Uncle Tom and Sambo, if you knew who Uncle Tom was, you really would call him Uncle Tom when you should really be calling him a Sambo or a coon ass dude. Because Uncle Tom is the one who really took care of the slaves. He the one who fed them, stole them food, told them what moves that the master was going to make, and where to hide, where to go, what time, if they wanted to decide. I mean, Uncle Tom had some, he may have been but them field niggas needed a house nigga in their frequency. Well, he played his role. And I'm just saying, so the next time, don't get it so mixed up in regards to a Sambo and Uncle Tom. I mean, a Sambo is that coon ass Willie Lynch. In addition, I want to add one more thing. Our conversation, the way we speak to each other and whatnot. When we speak to one another, our conversations should be on a upward mobility versus a downward mobility. Upward mobility equals power. Would you agree? And we understand that power is what? Power is the ability to create phenomena and make it act to one's desire. Right? Right? Power, right? I'm just saying. Black History Month, you all. If there's anything that I said that you all like, please, by all means, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends about it, tell your family about it. You all be safe tonight. It is Friggers night. Okay, don't drink and drive by all means, and have some respect for yourself. Have some respect for yourself. Elevate your mind, elevate your thinking, elevate your vocabulary, and I promise you other doors will evolve and open up for you as well. 13th letter to the cipher. You all have a great night. Drive carefully out there, you all. Thanks for watching.